Well, welcome everybody to a special edition of the Science of CX. I'm Steve Pappas, your host. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We had an interesting episode this week that we wanted to put out there because there's some things that are happening out in the customer experience and contact center worlds that people aren't really thinking about. And we know that a lot of our listeners are contact center folks. They are executives that run contact centers. And I thought it was important for us to put this special edition together very quickly, that events for contact centers are non-existent. And there's been a drought for quite a while that where do we get information? How do we share information? How do we know what our peers are up against during this time? And so to that end, I wanted to bring Valerie McSorley on, who is the founder and executive producer of Contact Center Nation, to talk a little bit about what's happening for the contact center event business in general. So Valerie, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Steve. It's great to be here with you.
Oh, this is great. So just to give folks a little more sense of who Valerie is as I said, she's the founder and executive producer of Contact Center Nation. We'll talk about that in a little bit because you're going to hear exactly what she's doing to pivot in this business. But she's also an award-winning special event producer with nearly 25 years of industry experience. Her diverse event portfolio includes conference production, meeting planning, industry trade shows, golf tournaments, fundraising galas, product launches, corporate, nonprofit, and association management events. So Valerie has launched avant-garde events since 2002. She built her company from scratch with a homemade business card and sheer will, grit, and determination to make it happen. But Valerie's true love is connecting professionals and brands to their target demographics through events. And by harnessing the power of the personal connection and great experiences, she connects organizations and individuals to new clients, new sales opportunities, new strategic partnerships, new media interviews, and new job opportunities in general. So Valerie has produced industry-specific events and programs for nearly 2 decades for a variety of professional organizations. But then she launched Contact Center Nation in 2016, and that has been one of the best nationwide venues and events for contact center folks around the country to really jump in and find out more about what their peers are doing, to see the troubles and the successes and what's happening. And now more than ever, do we need to talk about this, because in the contact center world, it has been thrown upside down. People have been pushed to the work from home, and not necessarily with all the tools right away, but some have been able to do it successfully. Others are still struggling. But let's talk about the event business, because we in the contact center world too. That's how we look at how to stay in touch with the proper demographics and the proper personas of our future customers, understand what they're going through, and being able to talk about it. So Valerie, can we start there? Can we talk about what the general state of the event business is right now?
Sure. And the general state of the event business is not so hot for live events. Because of the impact of the coronavirus, we are looking at not being able to host live events for a minimum of 12 to 18 months. So we have really, it's a tough time to be in the event industry. So keeping that in mind, we're looking at a long way out. And my concern is, even as it starts to open, will organizations bring and allow their employees to go out to events once again, once we even get to that point in time?
Yeah, there's a lot of considerations there. So maybe just for our listeners, what did the timeline look like? I'm sure it was unfolding in front of you as other parts of the world were in front of all of us. But from an events perspective, you probably had a lot of things, up in the air. And what did that timeline look like back February timeframe?
So around the beginning of the year, we were really on fire. We were killing it. This year started out, we were just fantastic. We had events coming up, industry events in Phoenix and in Boston, scheduled for March and April, and we were less than a week out from our biggest program in Phoenix, which has been a really wonderful city for us, really wonderful market because there's so many contact centers in that space.
Sure.
So, about 5 days out before the event, I mean, I have event supplies still sitting in a country club out in Phoenix. About 5 days out, really, the world stood still. There was that Oval Office commercial spot, or I should say, President Trump was made his announcements from the Oval Office, and that night, really, but within 12 hours, the world just stood still. So, the NBA canceled the rest of their season. It was Tom Hanks came out with the coronavirus. Everything just kind of stopped. So what happened was we had to put everything on pause. So we had to postpone our events. We had Phoenix, and we had another show coming up in Boston in April. So initially, when everything started to go free fall, we postponed our events. So we thought, okay, well, we'll push out till May. Then May turned into, well, we're going to push out until September. And, we continued to follow all the CDC guidelines and monitor the situation. And then it came to light slowly but surely that we are not coming back. Events is going to be in phase 4, and there's no date for phase 4. So we are looking at a very long haul before you're going to be in a live event situation.
Wow. All of us felt it in different ways, but to understand that, I know I was supposed to speak at a number of shows. I'm still sitting on tickets. I'm probably sitting on a half dozen tickets that hopefully I'll get to use at some point. But so once you see that the timeline has just extended out so far, you've got to keep going, right? You've got to somehow reinvent and retool the business. How do you start to do that research? Because you have to look around, research what's going on, research, what do people want? What are the needs? Do they know what their needs are? So, how do you gather that data to start to make the change?
So there's a lot of pieces went into that. It wasn't easy to do. Initially we thought we would just push off and we would deliver what we had planned. So now you have to, when you're looking at making the leap into the virtual world, you have to do a number of things. You have to, first of all, find a platform and a technology to make it come to life. You have to do some research to see what people want. Quite frankly, I had to retool all the content because all of the material and all the discussion points for the conference were no longer valid. Everything went sideways, and now the concerns that we really need to be talking about weren't even on our radar, on our mind when the event was originally produced. So all the content had to be retooled. But I think you have to give people an experience. And I have the background of being in the event business for 25 years, that this is not a webinar. You cannot just host a webinar. You have to take people, pull them through the screen with you, and give them an experience. So it took a lot of research into what is the frequency, what's the right amount of time to have people in their chair, because it's no longer like a conference situation in a ballroom. You can't just sit there all day and listen to session after session. There's a fatigue. What day of the week makes sense? What's the proper amount of time that people want to be in their chair? How do you deliver a highly engaging experience that's beyond, just a listening to speaker after speaker? So there's some tools and some technology like we've put together, and I'm pretty proud of what I've put together to make it feel like an experience and not just another webinar, because I do believe there's a lot of webinar fatigue right now at this point.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. And we've worked together for many years, and I'm really pleased at what you came up with. Even from my perspective, whether it's the speaking or whether it's in my capacity as a chief marketing officer, what you've come up with seems to be the right mix all the way around, and giving a lot of value to the people that are attending. So what's your response been like? I mean, how how is it going? Because I know you once you come up with the pivot and you figure out how are you going to move this online and still provide a great experience with lots of value for folks to come on and keep coming back and tell all their friends about it. How's the response been?
It's been great. I'm very positively encouraged by the response because we've opened up to so many different markets now that we've taken it virtual. So not only so Contact Center Nation has developed a series where we were in a variety of different geographic locations where there was a high concentration of contact centers.
Right.
So we hosted events in Phoenix, Chicago, Boston, Miami, and DC. So now what essentially has happened is I'm able to take all of those markets that we've been building over time and put them under one umbrella. So that's been exciting to actually have people that would have never been able to be in the same room before come together. In addition, what we've seen is now we've brought some new markets in to the fold, and I'm seeing registrations come in from all over, from places where we've never been and never even thought about visiting. So, I'm seeing people come in from, I even have some international people coming. I've seen people come from Texas, from Iowa, from Georgia. So we are expanding our reach considerably. We've also attracted some brand new sponsors to the mix as well, which is really exciting. So I think that there's a need right now for a conversation in the industry that's missing. There's a lot of places to get information, but I think right now we're all in so much trouble. One of the pieces I think that folks have valued about my events and my portfolio, my series for so long, is the opportunity to talk to one another. We've always created a very comfortable environment where executives and leaders could come and they could talk really freely about their issues and their challenges and really roll up their sleeves and get some good ideas with one another and share new ideas, share new concepts. And I always felt like they walked away with two things. They walked away either with the understanding that what they were doing, their approach was correct, or they walked away with a new way to tackle their issue, which were both really, really important.
That's great. Well, I can tell you from one perspective, as chief marketing officer, the March to June timeframe through the end of June timeframe is something from a marketing perspective that we all count on for loading the top of the funnel. So for any vendors out there, any marketers, you'll understand that March, April, May, and June timeframe is critical historically on an annual basis for us to be loading the top of funnel. And so was in September, October, November to a large degree. So those seasons, the spring season and the fall season, are very critical to that. But not only that, we know that it's critical to the experience of the contact center folks as well, to be gathering the information they need for their next year. As they're progressing to provide better experiences for their customers or their patients or their members, they gather that information, and not having your shows there has been a huge gap, for all of us. So maybe you can explain a little bit of how does a fully virtual conference like the Contact Center Nation coming up just next week, really, what does it look like? And, what's that going to feel like? Because I think people are very jaded as to the webinar after webinar and PowerPoint. What is that going to look like for people that may be thinking of saying, hey, I want to take a look at this?
Sure. So Contact Center Nation is launching a virtual experience. It's going to be hosted for the month of August. We're kicking off on August 4th with a welcome party and a networking reception. And we're going to run every Wednesday in August. So the 5th, the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th, we're going to run programming every Wednesday from 2 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. So what we're doing in the in-between is we will be hosting, the event itself is the Contact Center in Crisis, leading agents, operations, and customer experience through the coronavirus. So we will be talking and focusing on a different subject each week. So our first week, we're going to talk about the agent experience. second week, we're going to be talking about operations. And the third week, we're going to be talking about CX and the new normal. The last week, we're going to wrap up with a live Q&A, Ask the Expert session. And then we're also going to leave on a high note with a closing keynote from Kathleen Peterson, the industry guru from Powerhouse Consulting. So she's going to leave us on a high note about how to be optimistic during this troubled time. But what we're doing each week, and I'm really excited about this, Steve, because I took a lot of time to really think this through about what would feel like an experience. What do people really need right now? And as we've said, it's not another webinar. So we have to have produced an experience where I'm going to make you feel like you've gone on a journey with me. And how we're going to do that is we're going to do that through a variety of ways. So we're going to do a blend of some live and some recorded content. We're going to be interviewing contact center leaders, and we're going to be talking about some best practices. But more than that, we're going to be hosting live roundtable discussions on a variety of topics where you will be able to roll up your sleeves with some discussion leaders and some of your industry peers and really talk about what's going on right now, because we are all in some serious trouble right now. And our leaders have always learned from one another. And this is a time to share and have a conversation and to grow. So beyond that, what I'm really excited about is each week over the 3 weeks where we're going to be hosting the main pieces of content, I have identified a positivity expert, and we are going to be hosting 15-minute positivity boosts for each of the 3 weeks. We're going to talk about, one week we will be talking about mindset, another week we'll be talking about purpose, and the last week we're going to be talking about relationships. And why this is so important right now is because with all that we're dealing with, there's an underlying anxiety, fear, just the uncertain, and it's affecting our mental health in this country. So running parallel with the coronavirus crisis is a mental health crisis.
Sure.
We've done an amazing job in Massachusetts of lowering our infection rates down to nearly, I think they're about 1% right now. But what's happened is the ICU beds that were COVID patients are now replaced with patients that are failed suicide attempts. There is a mental health crisis in this country. So I want to be able to shine a light and give people a 360 experience on what they're dealing with, particularly leaders, so that they can take some of these tips and strategies and coping mechanisms and share them with their teams, because people are hurting right now. They really need a lift. They need to have some tools and strategies to get themselves out of some troubled times. And I'm sure we all see that. We see it with our, you don't have to go too far. You get on these Zoom calls, you see these long faces and people look sad. They need to be lifted up right now.
Perfect. Well, I know that you are well known for delivering the wow factor and great experiences at events. And I know whatever you think up for this virtual new normal will still deliver the wow factor and a great experience. So can you tell folks how they can get involved if they want to attend? Where do they go for that?
Sure. Just go to contactcenternation.com, click on upcoming events, and they'll take you right to the website. There's a dedicated website, and there's some really cool features that will go along with this experience. There's some gamification pieces, there's a leaderboard, there's photo sharing contests, there's profiles of all of the attendees. You can connect in one click. We've got some good community boards going throughout the event, so people can share, if they're hiring, if there's other events that they want to share, if they just want to have a conversation, if they want to share resources like, good podcasts like this one, where to find them. But they can also schedule and set up virtual meetups, which I think is really important right now. So they can schedule a virtual happy hour with one another. They can see who's in their own backyard, because things are starting to open up a little bit. And if you wanted to meet up and have a socially distant cup of coffee, that would be fine. But there's a lot of different functionality pieces that are going into this that will make it feel like, beyond a webinar. So the technology's there, and I think the technology's been there for quite some time. I think what we're experiencing and what will be paying dividends now is the adoption of people to be able to, to want to engage with Zoom and some of these features that have been around for a long time, but now they're more valuable than ever.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, in our last couple of minutes here, where do you go from here? How does this evolve, and how do people beyond this event here in August stay involved with each other beyond the meetups that they might find because they've networked with people and there are folks that they want to learn from and share experiences and things like that. But where does the event industry, or specifically the Contact Center Nation that you host, where does that go, and what's the future going to be with that?
Sure. So again, the live event space is not coming back for a really long time. We still need to meet, connect, and share. So we are launching a subscription-based membership program September 1st, where we will have live virtual events on a regular basis. So we will host a variety of things, from coffee hours to virtual happy hours to industry interviews, roundtable discussions. We are going to have a variety of opportunities for our network to connect, share, and continue this conversation, because right now people need a community. They need to be around their peers. They need to share. They need to bounce ideas. We need each other more than ever. So that voice is missing right now. We don't need another webinar. People are tired of being talked at. They need to talk with one another, and we're going to deliver that. And I see that as missing from the space. And I truly believe, and I know you know me very well for a very long time, at the heart of what I do, I am a connector. I bring people together. You've shared with me many times through the years who you'd like to meet, and I've taken you by the hand in many, many different venues and said, "Oh, Steve, I know you wanted to meet Bill," and we've launched a conversation. And I know there's been some really tangible, measurable results from those conversations, and that's valuable. We can still do that. We can still do that absolutely in the virtual space, and it's needed and it's necessary.
Great. Well, for those of you out there that are involved in the contact center or that want to attend a contact center and customer experience event, I'll tell you there isn't a better one out there. And I'm so glad, Valerie, that you've figured out how to pivot this part of the industry, especially for contact centers and customer experience, because those folks are struggling. It's been hard for the level of change that they've endured in the last 4 months or so. It's not letting up. They're trying to take the best calls from their homes with all of the challenges in front of them. And I've seen the ergonomic challenges. I've seen pictures of people, on top of laundry bins with their laptops and not necessarily have the setups proper for work from home. So it's been a challenge. And the one thing, if you can bring a little bit of light to that time and learning and sharing, I think it'll be a great one. So I encourage everybody to look up contactcenternation.com, check out exactly what's going on, jump in, share. Share your struggles, share your successes with others, because everybody's in it. Everybody is feeling it, and you could learn from other industries as well as other people and your peers within the same industry. So thank you, Valerie, for jumping on at such short notice to this special edition of the Science of CX.
Thank you so much, Steve. This was a blast. Appreciate it.
Great. Well, that's another edition of the Science of CX. Until the next time we meet, stay safe, stay healthy, and everyone, please take care.